Hi, mystery writers. Welcome to Write a Killer Mystery, where we learn to make a good mystery great. I'm Zara Altair, and today we're going to talk about getting writers right. So there's a time where you can stop all your research and your planning and get going with your story. All right, so first I want to thank my patrons on Patreon for their continued support. And if you're enjoying this series of videos, I encourage you to join us. There's a link in the description below. Okay, so writing is what writers do. There's no getting around the fact that writers write. Planning and research help you write your story faster. It's really true. But at some point, you need to stop all of that and start writing and make writing a consistent part of your life. That's how your novel will get written. So recently I received questions from beginning mystery writers who hadn't entered the writing life, and they were kind of stuck where they are. They were getting ready to begin to commence, but hadn't started writing, and your novel won't get written until you start writing, all right? One person sent me a long list of all the research reference books they had, and they'd read every single one of those. So they had all this background material, but they hadn't started writing their mystery. And another one was trying to collate 3 different story outline models into one big structure, and I've talked about that here before. When you try to jam your story into a structure, it's easier to just start writing. There's a point where you need to stop overthinking your novel and start writing. So let's talk about that first draft, because that's where you begin. That first blank page can be intimidating. It can. And so here's some pointers about getting started with your first draft. The thing is, you don't need to be perfect in your first draft. As a matter of fact, you don't even want to expect to be perfect, all right? The aim of the first draft is to get the story written from beginning to the end, so that you have covered the basics of your story. You're going to iron out all the details later, but writing that first draft gets that story into a story format. So the aim of it is just to tell the story. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you make. It doesn't matter if there are plot holes. You can fix all that later. What you want to do is start writing your story and write the story and get going. I don't know how else to explain it. Get going with your writing, because what's going to happen when you start doing that is you're going to accomplish a lot for yourself as a writer. Perfection isn't the goal, but there's lots of things you're going to learn when you're writing that first draft. First of all, you're going to know the beginning, middle, and end of your story, because you've written the whole story, all right? And it's different than thinking about it and when you've actually written it, all right? And you're going to introduce all the characters, so you and your readers have a sense of who they are. You're going to get those characters down on the page, coming alive for your readers, all right? You're also going to discover your writing strengths, the things that you can do easily And also, you're going to discover your writing weaknesses. And those are things that are fixable when you edit after you finish that first draft. Remember, the first draft is just getting the story written. And you'll learn how to create a mystery puzzle that's specific to us as mystery writers. And you're going to add clues and write suspects with who misdirect and hide things and make it more complicated for your detective. And the other thing is, however much research you've done as you're writing, you're going to discover the research details that you still need. And you don't know what those are until you actually start writing your story. And also, once again, when you come to a place where you don't know something in your writing process, you can just mark it. I use 3 X's, but you can use whatever you want. And that's a place where you need, when you're editing stage, where you need to go back and fill in the research details. The goal of writing that first draft is to get the story written. And an important part of writing that first draft is learning how to incorporate writing into your life, whatever it takes to be writing on a consistent basis. As you're writing, you learn how to incorporate that into your life. All the planning and research you do will not help you learn these things. They won't. The only way you learn these things is by writing. So you want to start writing. So one thing I want you to remember is, if you're only writing the first draft, everything is fixable. Everything is fixable. So give yourself permission to write poorly. It doesn't matter on that first draft. I actually have an author friend who loves finishing the first draft, because now she can what she calls make the story good. She's gotten the whole story down, beginning, middle, and end, and her characters and all of that. And now she can go in and do all the syntax tweaking, or develop her characters more. And she does that all after she's finished her first draft. And she fleshes out the characters and looks for plot holes. And so that she finds it motivating to write that first draft with all its mistakes and its gaps, because she knows that when she goes back and looks at it, she'll be able to spot where those things are, where she needs to make her story good. All right. So save all your worries and doubts about the story until the first draft is finished. It's a huge accomplishment to finish your first draft. Editing is all about making your story smooth for your reader, and it is a completely different process. It's very left brain and logical. Writing is creative, and you want those writing juices to flow when you're writing, so just write the story, all right? So you want to get started writing. And so then I want to talk a little bit about the rituals that can help you sustain your writing process. Those rituals are based on your personality, and they are unique to every writer, but every writer has them because they help us get into the writing mode. So I'm going to list some ideas that other writers use to help them in their writing process and get into their writing zone, as it were. Many people have a special place where they write. It could be a cafe, or your kitchen table, or a room in your home, or your writing desk. But just sitting down in that place is like a trigger in their brain that it's writing time, it's story time. All right. And I have a friend whose day job is writing, and when he goes to work on his fiction, he actually physically goes to a different place, a different desk in his house to write his fiction. And that is his cue that now he's in fiction writing mode. We don't all have a house big enough to do that, but that is the physical place is one of his cues for fiction writing. And it doesn't matter whether you use paper or a device of some kind like a computer or an iPad. Some writers write the entire novel longhand with pen and paper. And they type the manuscript onto the computer later. Others write on a computer or an iPad. Some use story writing software. Some use traditional writing software. It's up to you, whatever you have, however you are the most comfortable writing, all right? Another thing that I hear over and again from writers is to line up your snacks. I know this sounds simplistic, but it's really true. You want your snacks right there next to you while you're writing. You don't get up to go in another room and go find something to munch on. You get your snacks ready before your writing time. And writers love to nibble, so you want to get them ready for you so they're just right there. It can be chocolate, it can be secret trash food like potato chips, it doesn't matter. And crackers, almonds, healthy food, whatever your snacks are. But get those snacks right there so you don't have to think about them while you're in your writing mode, and you won't interrupt yourself and take yourself out of your writing zone. To get snacks in another room. And the same goes for drinks, all right? Some writers fuel their writing with coffee, others drink tea, others drink herbal tea, some stay straight with water. The whole idea is to stay hydrated, and once again, to not have to take yourself out of your writing zone. It's all right there ready for you to sip whenever you need. I know people who have actual coffee pots on their writing desk, so it's up to you, but you want your snacks and your drinks to be right there ready so you won't be distracted by having to go off and find those things. Okay, no noise or no noise. It's a personal choice. Some people like the white noise of being in a cafe and the background of people chattering around them, and they find it stimulating. Others write with earplugs in their ears so they hear nothing. And so that also is up to you, what your preference is for your sound environment. And speaking of sound environment, there's a choice for music or no music as well. Some writers create playlists for their writing time, and some even have different playlists for the type of scene they're writing, whether it's tense or action or romantic. They create playlists to play as they're writing those different scenes. And other writers prefer silence while they're writing. Some people use what they call concentration music, like aural beats. Some people use that while they're writing. It just depends on your preference. And then another thing is the time of day where your writing flows. It could be morning, noon, or night. It's different for each writer, all right? Each writer seems to have a time of day when the writing flows easily, and that varies by individual. Some get up early in the morning, and their writing just comes out as soon as they wake up. That's what they do. They get to their writing. And others are total night owls. They don't even start writing till like 10 o'clock at night. It just depends on you and what time of day works best for you that triggers that writing flow. So one of the things you need to do to really get into that writing flow and consistency in your life is to find the time of day that works best for you. So, essentially you want to mix and match your rituals. You may come up with some creative ritual that works for you, that triggers your mind. This is writing time, all right? They act as triggers, these rituals, and they help you form a writing habit, because when you do them, it's writing time and you're writing. Okay, I hope that helps you. I hope that helps you get out of planning, research, and writing the story, because that's when you're going to be a very productive writer. You're going to get your story written, and whatever tools you choose or space you make for writing, or whether you use sounds or music or not, or what kind of snacks you have or what you drink, you want to create a writing habit that becomes part of your life. That's the whole idea. And then you get writing and get that story and start writing, so you go from the beginning through the middle to the end, and you get that first draft done. All right, I hope that helps. It's you want to kick yourself out of that planning stage and actually get to writing, and that's where you're going to discover a lot about you and your writing style. Okay, I hope that helps. Now, also, if this is your first mystery, and you may not know all the steps it takes to create a novel, and of course one of them is writing that first draft, but you may like to check out my course, Write a Killer Mystery, which takes you from story idea to character development to planning to writing through editing all the way to the end. And there's a link in the description below if you'd like that. It's a guideline to get you started with getting your mystery written and done. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. And if you enjoyed this video, buy me a cup of coffee. There's a link in the description below. So keep writing.